Okay, so picture this. You're at LAX.
Yeah.
You've just gotten off like a long flight.
Ugh, I know that feeling.
You're tired, and you just want to get to your final destination.
Absolutely.
So now imagine you see someone intentionally walk past their gate knowing you're missing their flight.
Oh, wow.
Not just any flight, but one to like a dream photography gig in New York City.
Oh, no.
That's what happened with Hannah Kobayashi, and that's just the beginning of this whole story.
You know, it's so interesting because her life seems so ordinary before all of this happened.
Right.
Just a young woman from Maui, good relationships with her family and friends, even an amicable breakup.
Yeah, you always expect there to be some kind of warning sign.
Exactly.
But for her, it seems like everything was totally normal until it just wasn't.
It's a real head scratcher.
And that's why we're doing this deep dive today into Hannah's story. We're using news reports, social media posts, and even some stuff from Dog the Bounty Hunter.
Really? Dog the bounty hunter?
Yeah, we're going to try and piece together what happened, how she just vanished.
Was it on purpose? Was she influenced by someone? So many questions.
Exactly. So let's rewind to November 8th, 2024. Hannah's at LAX with her ex-boyfriend.
Okay.
They're about to board a flight to New York. They're traveling together, but they plan to go their separate ways once they got there.
Gotcha.
And she misses her connecting flight.
Well, I mean, people miss flights. It happens.
Oh, for sure, especially at LAX.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. She texted her family saying she'd sleep at the airport and catch the next flight.
Okay.
She doesn't.
Mm.
Instead, she spends a few days sightseeing around LA.
What?
Yeah. And the text messages she's sending to her family and friends, they get really weird.
Weird how?
Like, she's not sending typical travel updates.
Okay.
It's all this cryptic stuff about being scammed, having a spiritual awakening, even being guided to the redwoods. And get this, she's sending money through Venmo to people her family doesn't recognize.
It's like she entered a different world. Seriously. And during those few days, we have confirmed sightings of her at a Nike event, a bookstore where she signs up for their newsletter, and she's even caught on a metro station security camera.
Wow, so she's definitely around.
Right then, on November 11th, after she picks up her lost luggage from LAX, she vanishes.
Vanishes.
Completely gone. Her phone last pings at the airport.
Oh, wow. This is where it gets really interesting.
Right. The police get involved. Her family starts searching, and the internet explodes with theories.
I bet human trafficking cults catfishing the whole 9 yards.
Exactly. And even Hannah's family's behavior is being scrutinized.
Really?
Especially her father, Ryan. Sometimes he used the past tense when talking about Hannah.
Huh.
That really fueled a lot of online speculation. It was a media frenzy.
I can only imagine.
Then on November 24th, tragedy strikes. Hannah's father, Ryan, is found dead near LAX.
Oh, no.
He took his own life.
That's awful.
It was heartbreaking, and it really changed the whole investigation. The police were already leaning towards classifying her as a voluntary missing person. Voluntary missing person meaning?
Basically, that she left on her own, not because of something bad happening.
Oh, I see. That's an important distinction.
Right, so if she left willingly, where did she go? Well, surveillance footage shows her buying a bus ticket to the Mexican border and crossing into Mexico on foot.
Wow.
And there are witnesses who saw her there alone and unharmed.
Now she's in Mexico?
Seems like it. But even with this evidence, her family insists that she wouldn't have left on her own.
They think something else is going on.
Yeah, that someone is controlling her. This fuels even more media attention. Everyone's talking about it.
This just keeps getting more and more complicated.
I know. And just when you think it can't get any crazier, it does.
Oh,
An article in Los Angeles Magazine drops a bombshell.
what happened?
They reveal that Hannah's mother found documents that suggest Hannah secretly married an Argentinian man named Alan Kokoski.
A secret marriage? This is wild.
I know, right? It throws everything we thought we knew into question.
Absolutely. So, who is this Alan guy, and why would she marry him in secret? Especially after just breaking up with her boyfriend. It just doesn't add up.
It's a total mystery, and we're going to dive deeper into that right after this break.
So this secret marriage really throws a wrench into things.
Doesn't it?
The article even suggests that Alan might be involved in some kind of scam,
Yeah.
like with immigration or finances.
Yeah, maybe Hannah's disappearance is part of that whole scheme.
It's definitely a possibility.
So the question is, who is this Alan guy?
Right, and why would Hannah secretly marry him? Especially since we know she had just broken up with her boyfriend.
It just doesn't make sense.
And remember those Venmo transactions Hannah made? Sending money to people her family didn't know?
Yeah, what about those?
Could they be connected to Alan in this possible scam? It's worth considering.
And there's those emojis she used in one of the transactions, a box and a bow and arrow.
Interesting.
It's like she was trying to send a secret message.
A coded message that only the recipient would understand.
Right, maybe a clue.
We also know that Hannah was pretty active online during this time, especially interested in twin flame accounts on Instagram.
Twin flame?
Yeah, it's this whole belief that everyone has a soulmate out there who's like a mirror image of their soul.
Okay, I've heard of that.
It's often associated with really intense emotional connections,
Right.
but it can also be a breeding ground for manipulative relationships and even some cult-like behavior.
That's a little scary.
It is, and what's fascinating is that Hannah's interest in these accounts lines up perfectly with her strange behavior and her disappearance.
So maybe it's not just a coincidence.
It's possible these online connections played a role in her decision to leave everything behind,
Maybe she was looking for something more.
like a deeper connection or a greater purpose in life.
Could be.
And remember how she mentioned a spiritual awakening in her texts?
Oh, yeah.
Maybe that was triggered by these online communities?
Leading her down a path that no one saw coming.
It's definitely a possibility. Of course, we can't just assume cause and effect here.
Well,
Just because she was interested in these accounts doesn't mean they directly caused her actions.
true, but understanding her online activity is crucial.
Absolutely. It helps
Yeah.
us piece together her mindset and her potential motivations.
Okay, so we have Alan, the mysterious husband.
Right.
The Los Angeles Magazine article makes it seem like he's the mastermind behind a green card scheme.
A green card scheme.
Yeah, basically marrying someone just to help them get legal residency in the U.S.
Oh, so they can stay in the country.
Exactly. And often there's a financial incentive involved, too.
Makes sense, but why would Hannah agree to something like that?
Right. Was she really in love with Alan?
Or was she pressured or tricked into this marriage?
It's hard to believe that someone like Hannah with a seemingly good life would willingly get involved in something so risky.
Exactly, and this is where her family's insistence that she was being controlled becomes even more important.
You think they might be right.
If she was manipulated or taken advantage of by Alan, it raises serious questions about her mental state and how much influence he had over her.
It's a disturbing thought.
It is, and it makes you wonder, why haven't Alan or any of the other people possibly involved been charged with a crime?
That's a good question. The police seem to have accepted their alibi, but we don't know the details.
Right, it's all very hush-hush.
This lack of transparency just makes the whole situation even more suspicious.
It really does. And here's another strange detail. Alan and his girlfriend Marianne were traveling with Hannah and her ex when she disappeared.
Marianne?
Yeah, and get this, Marianne is also married to Hannah's ex-boyfriend.
Wait, what?
It's crazy, right? So now we have this tangled web of relationships, possible financial and immigration motives, and conflicting stories.
It's almost too much to process.
It really is. It seems like the story is far more complicated than it first appeared.
And at the center of it all is Hannah, a young woman who seemingly walked away from everything she knew and loved.
For reasons that we still don't fully understand.
Was she running towards something or running away from something?
The question remains unanswered. But just when this case seems to hit a dead end, we get another major development.
What happened?
Out of nowhere, Hannah's family announces that she's been found safe, and they ask for privacy.
You'd think that would be the end of the story, right?
You would, but as we've seen, nothing about this case is that simple.
It's like every time we get close to an answer, another question pops up.
Exactly. The family's announcement raises more questions than it answers.
Like, what do they mean by found safe?
Right, and where is Hannah? Why the sudden request for privacy after weeks of media attention? It's all very strange.
And shortly after the family's statement, a Daily Mail article comes out with yet another bombshell.
Another one. What is it this time?
They claim that Hannah's disappearance was all staged, a part of that elaborate green card scam we talked about.
The one orchestrated by Alan and Marianne?
Yeah, according to the article, Marianne, who was already married to Hannah's ex-boyfriend, also married Alan to help him get a green card.
Wow, so she was married to two people at the same time?
Apparently. And then they convinced Hannah to marry Alan as well.
Creating this whole messy network of relationships.
Right, all to make the scam more believable.
So they're saying Hannah's trip to New York, the missed flight, the cryptic messages, the whole disappearance was all an act.
That's what the article claims.
It's a bold claim, and of course, Hannah's family denies it.
They say they've spoken to Hannah on the phone, but she's refusing to come home from Mexico.
And they haven't actually seen her in person.
Nope. This revelation adds another layer of tragedy to an already complicated story.
It really does. I mean, Hannah's father took his own life believing she was missing, potentially a victim of something terrible.
And now we find out she might have been willingly involved in this scam and choosing to stay away even after his death.
It's heartbreaking. It makes you think about the emotional toll this has taken on everyone involved.
Hannah's family caught between grief and deception.
And Hannah herself facing the consequences of her choices, whatever those choices may have been.
And we can't forget the role the internet played in all of this.
Right? All the speculation, the sharing of personal information, the sometimes really harsh judgments.
This case is a prime example of the double-edged sword of online engagement.
On one hand, social media can be incredibly powerful for raising awareness and finding leads in missing person cases.
But on the other hand,
It can easily turn into a breeding ground for misinformation, harassment, and the loss of privacy.
it's a slippery slope.
It is. This case reminds us that behind every headline, every viral post, there are real people with real feelings.
It's a call for empathy and responsibility in how we engage with these stories online.
Even though Hannah has been found, we're left with a lot of unease.
Yeah, a lot of unanswered questions.
Was she a victim, a perpetrator, or something in between?
Did she make her choices freely, or was she coerced or manipulated? We may never know for sure.
These questions might linger, but maybe that's the point of this deep dive.
What do you mean?
It's not always about finding neat and tidy answers.
I see.
It's about exploring the complexity of human behavior.
The gray area.
Exactly the choices we make and the consequences that follow.
So Hannah's story, even with its loose ends and unanswered questions, offers valuable insights into the human experience.
It encourages us to think critically about the information we come across.
To question our assumptions.
And to recognize that sometimes the most important discoveries aren't about finding someone who's lost.
But about understanding the choices they made.
Precisely. This deep dive into the disappearance of Hannah Kobayashi may be over, but the conversation continues.
It definitely does. What resonated with you the most? What conclusions have you drawn?
We encourage you to explore the available information, examine the different perspectives, and continue unraveling the mystery of this case.
You'd think that would be it, right? Case closed.
You'd think so.
Hannah's found she's safe, end of story. But like we've seen throughout this whole thing, nothing is ever that simple.
Nope. The family's announcement actually raises more questions than answers.
Like, what do they actually mean by found safe?
Yeah, where is she exactly? And why the sudden need for privacy after a week of being in the spotlight?
It's just strange.
Very strange. And then shortly after the family's statement, a Daily Mail article drops another bombshell.
Oh boy, what now?
They're alleging that Hannah's disappearance was staged.
Staged.
Like it was all an act, part of that green card scam we talked about.
So Alan and Marianne were behind it.
That's what the article claims.
Wow.
It says that Marianne was already married to Hannah's ex-boyfriend, but she also married Alan to help him get a green card.
Wait, so she was married to two people at the same time?
Apparently, yeah. And then they brought Hannah into it, convinced her to marry Alan too.
To make the whole thing look more legit.
Right, to create this confusing web of relationships.
So are they saying that everything was fake?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
The trip to New York, the missed flight, the cryptic messages, the whole disappearance.
All just a performance?
According to the Daily Mail,
It's hard to believe.
it is. And of course, Hannah's family denies it completely.
They do say they've spoken to Hannah, though, right?
Yeah, on the phone. But she's refusing to come home from Mexico. So they still haven't seen her face to face.
Nope. This whole thing is just tragic on so many levels.
It really is. Hannah's father took his own life thinking she was missing, maybe even in danger.
And now it comes out that she might have been in on this scam the whole time, choosing to stay away even after his death.
It's just heartbreaking.
Ugh.
And it makes you think about the impact this has had on everyone.
On Hannah's family, for sure. Dealing with grief and betrayal all at once.
And on Hannah herself, whatever her reasons were, she's facing the consequences of those choices now.
We can't forget the role the internet played in all of this either.
Oh yeah, all the speculation and rumors.
People sharing personal information, making judgments, sometimes really harsh ones.
It shows the good and bad side of online engagement.
Definitely social media can be incredibly helpful in spreading awareness and getting information out there.
But it can also be a breeding ground for misinformation and negativity.
It's a powerful tool that needs to be used responsibly.
That's for sure. Even though Hannah's technically been found, there's still this unsettling feeling.
Yeah, like a sense of incompleteness.
Was she a victim or was she a part of it all?
Did she make these choices freely or was she pressured? We might never know for sure.
Those questions are going to linger, but maybe that's the whole point of these deep dives.
Whatever you mean.
It's not always about getting a clear-cut answer.
It's about exploring the complexities of human nature.
All the gray areas.
Right. The choices we make, the consequences that ripple out.
So Hannah's story, even with all its unanswered questions, gives us a glimpse into the human experience.
It makes us think critically, question what we see and hear.
Realize that sometimes the biggest discoveries aren't about finding someone who's lost, but understanding the choices they made along the way.
Exactly.
Right.
And that's what we try to do here on the Deep Dive. We take a closer look at these complex cases, try to understand what happened and what we can learn from them.
This deep dive into Hana Kobayashi's disappearance might be over, but the conversation doesn't have to end here.
We encourage you to keep exploring, keep asking questions, and come to your own conclusions about what really happened.
We'll be back soon with another deep dive into a new case. Until then, stay curious and keep searching for the truth.